This segment of the Bass, Kayak, and Beers podcast is sponsored in part by Dark Horse Tackle. Go to darkhorsetackle.com and use promo code BKB5 to save an extra $5 when you build your own box. Douglas Outdoors. Serious rods for serious anglers. Norsk Lithium. The lithium kayak battery you need is just a click away. Go to norsklithium.com. Catch Outdoors, the official measuring board for all 3 national trails. Go to catchoutdoors.com and use promo code BKB5 to save 5% on your next online purchase.
What is going on, everyone? Let me take my glasses off. I don't need them for the podcast. How's everybody doing? Hope you all doing great. Brand new episode today, live show. We got special guest Wesley Gray here from Texas, Dusty Yacker from Chicago, and we're going to be talking. We're going to be talking a lot about the 2024 season for the national trails, mostly the Hobie BOS. Bassmasters, also some local trails that my guest will be fishing at. Wesley's going to talk about what she's looking forward for the inaugural Texas Bass Nation Trail, and Dusty will talk a little bit about his local trails up in Chicago. For those that are new to the podcast, we have 2 shows that we run a week. First of all, this is the live show, the real life, with your host, your boy Armando. We also have the Advanced Kayak Angler, hosted by Daniel Perry and Kurt Smits. Their shows are about teaching and sharing knowledge, techniques on how to improve your game in kayak bass fishing. Our show, The Real Life, is more about talking to anglers, content creators, anybody that loves kayak fishing. Share stories, like we went on a campsite having a couple of beers and talking about how much we love this and all that. And hopefully we'll get a little information, education on tournament fishing and bass fishing that will help you as well. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube on the Bass, Kayak, and Beers. So before we bring our next guest, just always a quick shout out to our sponsors, Norsk Lithium, great lithium battery company that has partnered with us. Douglas Outdoors, which has supported me from the beginning of my social media phase and kayak fishing. They're great rods. Go to douglasoutdoors.com. They have a new lineup of very inexpensive rods. They're not cheap in the terms that it's not cheap in that way, but they're very inexpensive and very good rods. Those rods will be coming out soon. I'm going to get them on my hands soon and start reviewing them and letting you know what I think about it. But go check it out, Douglas Outdoors. Dark Horse Tackle. Love the guys at Dark Horse Tackle. It's a great company that really focuses on local bait shops that are 100% U.S. made baits. They have a subscription box, or you can build your own box. You can save about $5 by using BKB5 in your online purchase. And also Catch Outdoors, the official measuring board for pretty much all major national trails. You can also get a 5% discount using BKB5 online. So anyways, let's bring our guest in. First of all, Miss Wesley Gray, bringing some class into this class-led podcast. How you doing, Wesley?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Very good. Wesley, for those that don't know you or haven't heard about you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, Wesley Gray, right? You can find me on social media, Wesley Gray Fishing. I've been kayak fishing competitively for the last 3 years. I guess this is my 3rd year, going on 4th year. Yeah, so really exciting. I live in Huntsville, Texas, and I have a full-time job. I work at Sam Houston State University, so go Bearcats. And fishing is my passion. So I spend as much time as I can in the outdoors. Love kayak fishing, love bringing new people to the sport. And, it's just like getting out there and having a good time on the lake, catching big bass.
You know, you do have a pretty good, or not pretty good. You have an excellent social media account. You don't post just to post every single post that you make. It seems like it's in a purpose and
Yeah.
it's a quality. So that's what I love. I know with social media, oftentimes it's like post something, post something. You know, it doesn't
Yep.
matter what it is, just get out there. But your post, maybe you don't post as much, but your post is always entertaining, funny, and educational in a lot of ways. So
Good.
really
Thank
appreciate your
you.
social media. Let's bring in Dusty Yacker. Dusty, I know we were talking about this. Dusty Murgia, right? Well, it's kind of like a Spanish name, but we say like in English, right? Or you?
Yeah, it's got its origins in Spanish. I mean, I'm Mexican, I suppose, mestizo. I mean, obviously, I don't really look that way. My father's very, very Hispanic looking. It's pronounced Murguia, but like I said, you know, in the pregame, so to speak, it's just Yacker. The last name's Yacker. That'll probably be my byline. I plan on doing a lot more writing in the next couple of years, so hopefully you'll see Dusty Yacker in the byline. No one knows how to say Murguia, and I'm not worried about any legacy in my last name.
It's a good pin name, Dusty.
Yeah, it is.
Good pen
Dusty
name.
Yacker.
It's the Mark Twain of the Kayak.
There you go.
So you do a lot of writing and all that. For those that you're a veteran of the sport, let's just at that, and you're very successful tournament angler. But tell us a little bit about yourself. For those that have
just a kind of a blue collar guy. I've done a lot of things, odd jobs. A lot of my career in the last 15 years was in education. I was a teacher, a middle school teacher for quite some time. Had a background in sales. Did a fair bit of traveling. I've been in the kayaks space for the last 10 years and kind of gung ho about it full time the last 5 years. Fish a lot of the national trails, do a lot of traveling with the wife, and do a lot of content creation. Like Armando was saying, I do a lot of writing. I'm very passionate for those things, very passionate about advocating for the redeeming and healing powers of the outdoors and the outdoors experience, especially as a contrast to how many of us live our lives today. So it's going great. It's a great fit. I think it's kind of just the beginning of the ride, and there's a lot of cool things I'd like to branch into. So I'm looking forward to what 2024 has to offer.
Yeah, we were talking on the pre-recording along with Wesley about, you quit your day job. I retired from my job a couple of years ago. And it's just that, kind of like going out and just enjoying life. Don't wait till you're close to the other end of the rainbow before you start kind of doing your enjoying the outdoors. One thing, Wesley, you probably agree with me, Texas, I don't know if it's underrated, but I do say when I moved to Texas from Puerto Rico, living from a Caribbean island where I used to surf and do a lot of outdoors, I wasn't sure, I transferred from my job, what I was getting into Texas.
Oh, yeah.
And now I see, like, I recently picked up archery. I
Nice.
got myself a bow and arrow, and I'm planning on taking, now that deer season is over, I'm going to take this opportunity to sharpen my skills, and probably by next season we'll be
do a little bow hunting.
Yeah. Not seasoned hunter, but at least good enough not to be, knocking down squirrels by
I would love to pick up bow hunting.
Yeah,
I think that's
listen, you got to start somewhere, Armando.
Yeah, somebody told me that's like the fly fishing of hunting.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's true or not, but I feel.
Man, then I might be bad at it. Jeez, I don't know.
Yeah.
I wasn't too
Before
graceful.
you know it, you're going to be fletching your own arrows, making your own bowstrings.
Yeah,
you're going to have a tree saddle for climbing trees. You'll have it all.
Yeah, I'm going down that rabbit hole. So
yeah,
we'll see. But yeah, going back to that, it's enjoying the outdoors. And Texas is something like we were talking about. It's especially where you live. I think you're more like Central Texas.
More like East Texas.
East Texas, which is even better. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm in the area of Texas they call the Piney Woods. So deep East Texas, Piney Woods.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's get right into it. We wanted to talk about this episode about, the 2024 national trails. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to get a different perspective of it. Dustin, you're one of the, more veterans in the sport. It's a relatively new sport. If you're doing it 5 years, you consider it a veteran. I know, Wesley, you've done it a little bit less, but also I like to hear your perspective of, why you choose the national trails that you choose. What makes it or break it for you? What are you looking forward as far as we'll go over the rule changes. There were not a lot last year. I know there was streamlined. This year there are some major changes that are interesting. That we'll talk a little bit about that. But also, what attracts you to one trail or the other? Is it just the logistical part of it, geographically, whether it's close, or do you prefer one trail over another? Why that is? Well, first of all, before we do that, just give you a shout out to everybody that's watching on the live show. Stephen Bell, good evening, y'all. Thank you for tuning in. Scott, I always forget how to pronounce your last name, but Scott, thank you for tuning in. Dusty's one of the few ones that goes live.
I can't do it.
All right,
Sejowitz?
Let me just apologize, Scott, and we'll leave it at that.
No, but he's talking about something that he's talking about something that was really fun for me last season, which was going live in several of my tournament days, which not a lot of people do for whatever reason. I'd love to hear what their reason is, but yeah, man, that's thank you, Scott. Thanks for that shout out. I really appreciate you watching.
And the boys from Faith and Fishing Podcast, Robert or Cam or both, thank you for tuning in. So anyways, let's start with you, Dustin. We have, two really big major trails. We have more than one major trail. There's KBF, there's Hobie BOS and Bassmasters. Let's talk a little bit about what do you look for in a national trail? When you start the season, whether it's the end of 2023, the start of 2024, schedules start coming out. What is it that you look for to decide what trails you're going to pick?
It's really not Dusty Yacker centric. It's not like, man, I wish it's here. I wish it's there. I mean, really, Armando, to answer your question, honestly, man, I'm super, not that sound like, cliche or I'm on camera. And of course he's going to say this. I'm super grateful this stuff exists. Yeah. I am not the guy that's going to sit there and call for permits, do all the background work and because it's political, it gets personal. You got to scratch and claw to get these schedules together, to float organizations, to get backing, sponsorships, all types of stuff. So I'm just extremely grateful that something like this exists. And I've been in the kayak space long enough to see it kind of grow exponentially. So really, I don't look for anything specific in that respect. But of course, when the schedules are announced, absolutely do I look. One of the first things I look at, to answer your question a little more specifically, is what are the locations?
Yeah.
I mentioned, I'm in Chicago, and that might as well be, a tiny corner of the Bass Kingdom, some remote far corner. And for most of my life, these Sam Rayburn and Eufaula and Okeechobee and, these iconic lakes, they seemed like they might as well have been Mars for me. Getting to Kentucky Lake with my dad and, in a little Stratos boat was like the Disneyland before he did eventually get a bass boat. So, I kind of looked at it that way. But now, a little more desensitized to travel, I look at where they are, and I really kind of envision the part of the country, and do I have experience there? Is it something I can kind of build on? Is there some history? Is it a new opportunity for exploration? I often travel with my wife. Are there some sights and sounds that we have kind of yet to experience? So there's kind of a little bit adventure that way, looking at where these places are geographically, listen, just to be real transparent and honest, I do, it's nice to have, integrity in an organization. And I know, without getting into particulars and details, there have been some hiccups and stuff like that. So, with certain, businesses and certain organizations trying to move forward. So it's nice when things are very sound that way, when you can rely on the integrity of the individuals and the brand and the emblem. And that things might not go awry that way. Of course, I'm a competitor, and I'd like to succeed knowing that I'm succeeding in the field of the finest kayakers in the nation. And I think trails like the Hobie Bass Open Series, and I think absolutely trails like Bassmaster, certainly in the past year or two now and moving forward, these are the places where you need to be to fish against the cream of the crop, in my estimation. That's just only getting bigger and better everywhere we look, including local trails. Those are some of the things I kind of look for in that respect.
That's great insight. What about you, Wesley?
Yeah, just to kind of echo some of what Dustin said, and I think I've said this before on a couple of different shows I've been on. When I started kayak fishing, I just kind of went Well, I recognize the Bassmaster name, and I've always wanted to fish Lake Fork, so this is what I'm doing. So that was my very first tournament ever, was a national tournament on Lake Fork, and I had probably fished out of my kayak a very few times, like less than a handful of times before I just jumped off into the deep end. And like I've said before, I had so much fun and it was just awesome and I loved it. And I was like, I am never going back. This is what I'm going to do. And my philosophy on things is, if I want to get better at something, and bass fishing was something I wanted to get better at, I'd always fished ever since I was a little kid. We had a pond in the backyard, and I mean, every summer that's where you'd find me until dark. So always loved fish, fish with my dad and my grandpa growing up. So, this was just kind of like, yeah, let's compete. And so that first year I fished primarily the Bassmaster tournaments, not for any particular reason other than just locations. And I just kind of wanted to stick with one trail. Now that I've got a little bit more experience with the different trails and that kind of stuff, I'm kind of with Dustin. When the schedule comes out, I look at location and I think about, okay, what do I want to do this year? What's my goal this year? Right. So, I'm really goal oriented and goal driven. If you've like listened to any of my videos or read some of the stuff I've posted lately on social media, I set goals and then I work towards those goals. And so last year was to qualify for the TOC, and I was the first person out after roll downs.
Oh shit!
Yeah, yeah.
And I almost didn't go. Sorry, Wesley.
What could you have stayed home? Like I would have been in, but that's okay. But and after last year, I told myself I'm not going to chase 2 national trails again. Because
and lo and behold,
and last year was a lot, and I've talked about this. I've been pretty open about it. My aunt passed away in February of last year. I had a really close friend passed away actually December of last year. February, a really close friend of ours in September. And then my grandmother in just recently, a few months ago. And so this year's been hard. Like totally. Just like personally, emotionally. I'm not an emotional person.
I am.
It's just been difficult. And so I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason. So I'm very glad that Hobie has moved back to 3 tournaments for
I wanted to touch on that. Yes.
And like I told you guys, like I wasn't going to chase 2 national trails this year. That has changed. So I'll definitely be fishing as many Hobies and as many Bassmaster tournaments as I can get my tail to. So,
well, what I'd like to comment on, you said a couple interesting words there. One was chase.
Yeah.
And it's funny how we frame it that way, because it could, it's figurative and it's literal as well. And it could be that way. And you also mentioned the real life scenarios. And it's funny how when we say, when we do these things, or like when people say, hey, you're living the dream, or whether or not our work schedules, we're out there kind of on these national trails. It's, oh gosh, I'm sorry. I just had a momentary brain fart.
It went in and it went out.
Yeah, I forgot the point of what I was going to happen off, and I'm so sorry.
Well, listen, I mean, with that, it'll come back trails and work and stuff like that. Like, I'll say this, I'm super blessed.
That's what I was saying. I'm sorry.
I work full time. A lot of people, if you look at my social media, and I need to get a little bit better with this. This is kind of a goal. People think I fish full time for a living, and and people who don't know me, right? And I don't. I work a full time job, and I'm very blessed that I have a ton of PTO and a dean who is very supportive, and coworkers who are very supportive. So I'm extremely blessed.
Yeah, but that's what I was going to get at. That's what I recall. I mean, even as somebody who is a full-time fisherman, real life gets in the way. But it's like, time out, Dusty. Isn't that your real life? Well, no. It's just like any other job. Sometimes, leave or family matters, or just, things like that. So of course, that's real for every angler. That's lucky enough to be able to do that.
But as far as what trails to chase and that kind of thing, Armando, is a lot of it has to do with schedule. I'm going to prioritize national trails because that's what I enjoy the most. I enjoy the format and, the people, the format, the payouts, the opportunity that it brings. And then, of course, the Texas regional trails are, basically national trails in of themselves.
Yes.
I mean, there's lots of
Totally.
It's
Exactly.
extremely competitive. And I mean, those guys are absolute sticks. I wish more of them would come to our national tournaments because
maybe they will now.
They would. Well, I mean, bring them on.
Motors.
Like they'll do really, really well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very that's a super common. There are so many hammers and sticks we don't know of.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That would just if they had the opportunity to do this, like perhaps myself or some others, would be just as would be killing.
Oh
it. So
yeah.
That's for dang sure.
I mean, I can think of like 5 names on top of my head in Texas.
Well,
and I would be like, and again, that's just Texas. I'm sure Tennessee guys, which is another, loaded with talent state as far as bass fishing, will have a bunch of theirs. I would say the same thing, and I'm sure Alabama, pretty much every state would claim they have a vast talent that would probably be hammers in the national trails if they had the opportunity.
Sure.
And that's the interesting part about this. This is very few, like, and Dusty, you can chime in on the percentage number, but I mean, I'd say out of 125, 200 anglers on a single national trail, which is kind of like the average, somewhere around that time, around those numbers, 15 to 25, I say is the number of like real national anglers that travel, probably even less, that travel the whole state.
Probably even less,
maybe even less.
Yeah, probably even less,
So
that have the capacity to do that,
we have maybe a handful of anglers that could actually do this for a living.
Yeah.
And most of them will tell you, and I'm sure Wesley, I talked to and I've seen her social media, but she's very candid about it. Oh my God, Christine Fisher, she tells us she loves it, but it's not a glamorous life. Yeah. And her, her situation allows it, but maybe for a mother or a husband or, single parent that has a career that is drastically different. It's more like whatever is within 2-hour range I'll do, and I'm not doing it. Plus we have the cost. I wanted to touch on, by the way, I thought that my mic was muted. Could you guys hear me at all?
You're a little low, but it's fine.
Okay. So one of the things, let me make sure, I think that's what it is. Hold on. The audio.
My volume's all the way up and you sounded just a little low. No big deal.
Here we go. Now I have.
Yeah.
That's way better.
That's way better.
Yeah. I didn't notice it until you said something. Yeah, that's better.
I noticed because my mic was muted, and I was like, "Wait a minute, you guys are hearing me?" But I realized I didn't have my Yeti mic connected, so I apologize to the audience more than anything for that. But like I was saying, you touched on something, Wesley, that I thought was interesting, and forgot what is it that you touched on. The fact that Hobie went from 4 to 3.
Oh yeah.
And this to me is very interesting because Hobie changed a few things. Now, by no stretch of the imagination do I think Hobie struggled last year. No. But it did took a step down in attendance from what we used to think. And considering that we think or we feel like the sport is growing, it's kind of odd. You expect it at some point to plateau, but I thought it's too early in this growth of the sport to see Hobie BOS take a step back in attendance. Not that they did anything wrong; the quality was always great, right. But they did some. The streamline of rules I think affected them more than Bassmaster or even KBF. And I wanted to touch on that a little bit. I think a lot of people felt, and maybe they're right, that the not allowing motors was the big reason for maybe not having the attendance that they had last year. And again, it wasn't a bad attendance. I mean, I think every national trail, other than Bassmaster, that kind of had more attendance, would love to have the attendance that Hobie BOS had last year. But again, it was lower than 2022. I don't think it was the fact that the motors weren't allowed.
I think two factors: the prices for the cost to sign up got considerably higher, and
Increased.
I say with all due respect to Steve Fields and AJ, I don't feel like it was like I couldn't find an excuse of why that was. Like I didn't see, you understand as a consumer, hey, the cost goes up, but I want to see a justification of why it's going up, and I couldn't find one. I was like, I don't understand why it's going up.
Yeah,
especially when Bassmaster is not going up, when KBF is not going up.
I'll tell you what, Armand.
But let me touch on one more thing. The other thing I think it was when and I think that's the biggest reason. I say from my perspective of why I think the attendance went down is they went from 3 to 4. And for those that don't fish the national trails, let me give you my perspective, and then Justin, you'll chime in, and Wesley, you kind of chimed in already, but I'll let you rebuttal on it. I look at the trail and I'm thinking, okay, for example, Bassmasters this year, there was a huge talk about going 4. And I talked to Steve Owen. I'm like, I'll tell you my perspective. I got 2 trails. 2 of those stops are going to be relatively close to where I live. One is 2 hours. One is 4 hours. I'm willing to do those. You tell me I have to do 3? Okay, I can do 2 for sure that are close. I'd be willing to sacrifice my time and time from the family to drive 12 hours to go to Alabama. But now if you're asking me to do 4, then I'm not doing the 4th one. And by me not doing the 4th one, because I need to do 4 to qualify for AOY or for the national championship, unless, by AOY points, then guess what? If I'm not doing the 4th, then I'm not doing the 3rd one in Alabama either. And that's why I think the going back to 3 is very important. I think I don't criticize Hobie BOS going to 4. I think they give it a try. But I think more than anything, that's the reason for attendance. And I go same thing. If I need a minimum of 4 to qualify for AOY or to have an AOY chance to get to the TOC, and I'm not doing a 20-hour drive, well, guess what? I'm not doing the 3rd one for 12-hour drive because I'd rather do the national ones. Now I'll do I'll do the local ones, or the national ones that are close to me, but I'm not gonna sacrifice for that 3rd one. Now by bringing it to 3rd, now you got me hooked in. Like this year, I want to do the Bassmaster 3 events because 2 are relatively close. So I'm willing to sacrifice that 12-hour drive. And again, the time away from family and the expenses to do that 3rd and see where it lies.
Right. Well,
Go ahead, Justy.
I think why we're in a situation that sort of looks like this. I mean, like you had mentioned, it's all good any way you look at it. I mean, we have some opportunity. There are people that are attending kayak events. We're able to make thousands of dollars if we win. I mean, that's just a win. But there are a lot of factors, and some of those things that you talked about are absolutely legitimate. But we touched on the fact that there's just a handful of us that are even able to entertain doing this full time. Just even the thought, the reality of doing 8, 9, or 10 of these and traveling all over, and not having to worry about a full time job. So there's that. There's just a small handful that could even do that if they wanted to. So, there's a large pool. There's a large subgroup. There's a large demographic that does have to entertain things like, I can't be doing all these. So what's my best bet? Does it like? I mean, I hate to sound arrogant or anything like that. I don't care if it's 3 or 4. I don't care. Yeah. I don't care if it's 5. If it's 5, I'll try to make 5. I don't care. Those aren't my concerns. More of a concern to me is something like, the scheduling. Harris Chain and then Sam Rayburn 2 weeks later. For me, that sucks. 2 weeks. That's a little top heavy, if you ask me, in my opinion. Yeah. I can't do that. I'd have to stay down there and then go and then head east. Yeah. I mean, head west from Florida, and that's just not in the plans. I mean, there's just all types of configurations for the individual. It's so particular. And there's disparate trails too. There's 2 or 3 competing trails and a lot of like regional / kind of local ones.
Yeah.
So people are split in a lot of different, they're kind of pulled in so many different directions, and it's not a malicious thing. It's just the reality of our space.
Yeah.
And inflation, the economy, that's just not a cliche. Man, I mean, have you noticed the cost of things? I mean, gas is great right now, but I mean, so many things were brutal for people the last year that, I mean, like people budgeting, even myself, or even people in better situations, that's probably a consideration as well. So, You just never know what might might be the reality for an individual.
Well, and Armando, I think that it was a combination of all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
There was I guess it was 2022 when Bassmaster kind of had, not the greatest year, right? And the
It
attendance,
sucked. You're being diplomatic.
I'm
It
trying to
sucked.
be very diplomatic here, and
What
and,
in Bassmaster
Yeah.
and
for
Hobie,
2022?
Yes.
yeah.
What
That was a joke. But let's not get off track. Let's Wesley finish on that one.
The attendance wasn't that great, and that was the year that Hobie had this banner year, right?
Yes.
And then they came in and Steve Owens took over Bassmaster, which
That's another factor.
Are you talking last year's Bass?
No, 2022. Okay, so I'm sorry, you're not caught up.
I was like, wait a minute. It was a fantastic year.
11 days ago, there was an event which changed the calendar.
yeah. I'm talking about 2022.
Yes.
And then Hobie had this absolute banger of a year, right? And then they made a lot of changes. And I think that some of these changes were really good changes and that were changes that were needed. I think it was potentially too much change at one time. The increase in the cost of the registration fee, right? We need to have 4 events for AOI. The communication rule, that was difficult. And a combination of other things. So I think for me, in my mind, I went, I don't care because I'm fishing Hobie. Like, none of these things are going to affect my decision to fish this tournament trail. I'm with Dustin. I'm going to do this, but that's because I have the opportunity. I can travel. I can do these things, and all of these other things are not as big of a factor for me.
And I'm sorry to cut you off, but I was in that position. I was in the position where for a little bit where I did have to pick and choose, and that would absolutely start becoming criteria. Dang, man, they want to charge me $30 or $60 more or whatever. Man, that's my full tank of gas. Or boy, that just rubs me the wrong way because nobody who likes a price increase. That pisses people off. I mean, let's just face it.
Yeah, and they changed the payout percentage. They changed the number of people that can register. So there was just a lot of change at one time, and things that were good. So don't misunderstand me. I think that some of the
rule changes were good,
needed, and some of the changes were good changes. I think it was a lot of change at one time, and I think that as human nature is, change is difficult for a lot of people.
Absolutely,
I'm the kind of person where I just roll with it. And I don't let it affect me. And
amen, girl.
To do.
Amen.
And this is what I want to do, and I'm moving on. And so, but yeah. So I just think that was a big reason. And I still think Hobie had a great 2023.
Oh yeah. As far as them doing their job was awesome.
Loyal anglers. That it was still a wonderful tournament. AJ's a great tournament director. So and some of these things. I mean, I hope everybody has read the rules closely for 2024, because there have been some interesting addendums to the rules.
Anything that you want to specifically bring?
Yeah, I missed that one.
I mean, now I'm not going to jump into the conversation before we're ready. So, I mean,
okay.
Well, if Armando you might have to be the one who brings it up if Armando's not familiar with it. I'm not sure which ones you're referring to.
Listen, you guys know the TOC's gone to 65 people.
Yeah.
That's just Ryan Lambert trying to get in again.
No,
he keeps putting money under the table. That's Ryan Lambert.
You want less people?
No, I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it at all. Like
I would like less people. I would like less people. Not a big deal. I would like less people.
And a lot of people would, and that's cool. But you know what? In the end, it benefits me probably because I'm usually toward the bottom. So, of that qualification thing. So let me in, I'm happy for it. Yeah, I'm here. Knock on the door.
Look, I mean, it's kind of the best of both worlds, to each their own. I think Bassmaster did a smart thing. Steve Owens was very transparent about it too. Some people were like, "Wow, there's only 5 events, in the Bassmaster schedule today, or this year." But if you're gonna, if it's 3 events for an AOI, that's great.
Yeah.
But if there's 8 or 9 events and it's only 3 events for the AOI, to me, it's like, geez, you only fished 3 events and now you're in the listing for an AOI. and I'm on her cracking my ass for 6, 7, or 8,
Yeah.
But that,
and
you
but
know?
No, and I totally understand that.
But that's not how I'm going to ride. I
Yeah.
recognize Dustin. I mean, that's just like the other person in the opposite predicament, kind of justifying it like that. You just got to take it for what it is.
Yeah.
If the rules really ruffle your feathers to that degree that you don't want to fish it, dude,
Yeah.
I respect that. But I mean, maybe you're not cut out for that kind of thing,
Yeah. But let's see, what else did they change? Oh, there's a new sportsmanship rule. Have we seen?
I'm going to break it. If they
I
fill me on
thought
the
that
water,
was
I'm gonna break
coming.
it.
I thought that was. I figured that was coming.
What is
So
that?
Do not quote me, but
Okay.
it, essentially, if you disparage the host community, the trail,
Oh,
the,
no,
the lake,
I would never do
on
that. I'll
social
disparage
media,
myself.
et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, this has to do with the fact that these communities are bringing people in, right? Bringing the trail in,
Yeah.
and you've got anglers out there trashing the lake
Absolutely.
on their social media saying, this lake is garbage, or this town is garbage.
I know that's terrible.
And
It's terrible.
we can't do that and be taken seriously as a sport.
Amen.
Think about Bassmaster. Think about all the connections that they have, right?
Just think about the integrity of that shield, that brand, and what it means to people.
Exactly.
I'm interested to see how the nation takes this, because I know I love Jeff, I love Ryan, but I know they're big on not censoring anybody. That's been their motto. And this now, who's putting these rules? Is it the Hobie BOS or
It's
Bassmaster?
Hobie. I don't know.
Hobie.
I haven't read
So
Bassmaster's rules yet for 2024.
So this is Hobie, the good buddy AJ. I wonder
this is-
how they're gonna view this
Well,
compared to that other national trail that is very religious about censoring, comments. So that's gonna be interesting. I love to hear Jeff Malott and Ryan Lamberts on this.
Yeah.
I don't, and I won't, and I'm not looking forward to that. That doesn't have any redeeming value to me whatsoever.
I know what you're saying.
The other interesting thing, and I actually went back and reread the Hobie rules a couple of days ago because I was looking for
that is so important, though.
The off limits date for Rayburn, and there is not a specific number of days specified as an off limits period. In the Hobie rules anymore.
Oh, really?
Really? Now listen, if AJ's watching, I can't find it. Maybe it's there.
Yeah.
I didn't know that had changed. Did they mention it on the...
Please correct me if I'm wrong. But the off limits period for Rayburn starts on January the 29th. And the tournament is February the 10th. So it's...
Yeah.
That's like 10. That's like over 10 days.
Yeah. Before. And we went from 21 days, right?
Well,
that's interesting.
Maybe that's just as honest as just kind of forgetting, like not having it typed the right way in the event info.
I didn't hear anything about that. And then maybe it was. I honestly missed the episode with AJ was on
they didn't
the Nation.
Talk about it.
So so I probably should have listened to that episode. Yeah.
I don't think they talked about any of the other rule changes. Now, AJ's really good about
communicating
what changed. And there's not anything highlighted in the specified number of days for the off limits. So, like
just
I said,
for Rayburn, just for Rayburn.
That's the only one. The Rayburn is the only one that I can find the date for. They don't have the
rest of the typical week, right?
Say that one more time.
The rest would be the typical week off limits.
It would be the week, the practice period.
And Rayburn's the one that you're specifically having trouble finding a specified date?
No. I found the off limits date. It's just not 21 days before the tournament.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. It's less days than what it was before.
But it's still you can't pre-fish it till the Saturday before.
I think it's Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday
before and fish through that whole week.
The other thing and I haven't heard anything official about it, and maybe it has been official, maybe I missed the announcement. I know, and I'm not going to question anybody on anything. I don't want to go back to what happened. But there was a lot of talk about, keeping things separate. you want to do promotion with a cameraman from, the company you're affiliated with, do it not in tournament times if that person is not taking part in the tournament. I thought there was going to be some changes on that. Like that was no longer, allowable. And again, I'm being kind of, with a big brush kind of painting this. Because I don't want to get into the specific, but pretty much, you can do your own social media. You can do social media with the people that are fishing the tournament or pre-fishing. You can do that social media pre-fishing the tournament and fishing the tournament with people that are already fishing, signed up for fishing the tournament. You can't have just a camera guy, or at least that's what some people were asking for.
I haven't, like I said, I haven't read the Bassmaster rules yet, so possibly could be in the Bassmaster rules. I didn't notice anything in the Hobie rules, Armando. Now, again, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I saw anything that would affect that in the Hobie rules.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to go back. I'm not questioning what happened in the past. This is just wondering if that, I know there was some people calling for that to change, and I think it was considered, but I haven't heard anything official that has changed.
I have not heard anything.
Let me ask you both this. In regards to the motors, I personally have nothing against motors. I don't run a motor. That's just because I want to do exercise. I recognize the advantages of motor. I'm not intimidated by people that have a motor. I don't care if you're going to allow motors or not. However, having one national trails not allowing motors, I thought was good for the sport in the sense there's diversity. People that don't, that are purists or whatever, feel like, they want to, grind it out physically and, work for each bite versus having a motor. I personally would have liked to see one of the Hobie stay no motors. Just again, diversity. How do you guys feel about Hobie changing from now allowing motors, first of all? And how do you feel about them not allowing motors in two? Like, kind of like not completely committed. Do you have issues with that in any of those scenarios? Dustin, we'll start with you.
No, I absolutely don't. I don't pretend to know what went in those decisions. I don't entertain the rationale. I have so many other things in my life that I got to deal with. I literally don't.
Well, you're no fun. No kidding.
Well, no, come to the bar with me, man.
I'm kidding.
We'll change that opinion, homie. But anyways, and because I don't have a motor, and I'm getting one this year because, well, they're allowed. I might as well have one.
Yeah.
It didn't upset the rule change about including motors this year. Upset would. That's not even the word.
Would you have liked to see one stay without motors?
I would have liked to see the series as a whole stay without motors. Okay. I would have liked that. That'd be my preference. You got to evolve. Let's just face it. Let's just face what most people want to do with their kayaks. No matter what your argument is, a purist to this or that, no matter what you want to say about your specific argument, the general fact of the matter is that people are going to be outfitting their kayaks in one form or another with electronic propulsion, and to not allow that, Hobie, I think it would probably be self-defeating. Even though there's a conflict of interest with the brand, I think that evolution is simply going to point in this direction, and overall, despite maybe some minor inconsistencies, overall, it's just going to be a good thing. It's going to be a good thing for the consumer, the angler, the person interested in angling, the angler themselves, the space, these tournament entities. It's just going to be like that. Now, getting back to what I said about, I would like to see the whole series still stay pedal drive only. It's just because I like the notion of everybody doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not so much fairness or equity. But I guess it is. I guess I just maybe don't want to admit that to myself. I just like the notion of everybody sort of at the whim of their own propulsion, their legs, and how they want to manage that. That being said, I've been competing against motors most of my life and doing very well. So those don't, like you said, it doesn't intimidate me either. I just am excited about who I might become as an angler, zoom into places I never had access to before, and getting into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of the tournament feeling fresh, invigorated, and strong instead of running on adrenaline and scraping by on Saturday and Sunday. And then after Sunday, like, dead to the world, dead to
And having to drive.
like it's unsafe driving home, like things of that nature. So yeah, man, let's just do it. It's like forward facing sonar. I don't care about any of the bull crap they talk about. Am I going to get it or not? And if I afford it and put it in my kayak, damn well, I'm going to learn it and use it. And it's not going to, it's just, it's like that. I look at it like that.
Yeah.
I like Dusty. One of the reasons why I love having you on the podcast, because I describe it this way. You're the most uptight, nonchalant guy I've ever seen. even when you're like, I don't care. It's like your words say that, but your tone.
The most uptight, nonchalant guy. That's a Saturday Night Live skit.
Yeah.
I'm your most introverted extrovert, man.
Yeah.
Wesley, what about you? What is, would you have liked to see one trail stay, one? Are you against the motors? I know you're not, but I have to ask you the questions for the guest. And what do you feel about just having two non-motors?
I mean, so I'm not against motors. The first year that I fished tournaments, I didn't have a motor. And I fished primarily Bassmaster tournaments, and pretty much everybody that I fished around or fished with had a motor, and I got left in the dust everywhere, but I still caught a lot of fish. I mean, I don't think the motor makes or breaks it for you. I do kind of like the when Hobie had, when it was no motors, because I felt like it was a little bit more of an even playing field. Just given that kind of like everyone was doing the same thing. Even with that said, though, I'm so glad they're allowing motors. I'm a fan. As far as the two without motors, I was pretty disappointed when I heard that they were going to have two without motors. And, I kind of said to a couple of people, I said, this just doesn't make sense. You're either all in or you're all out. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And
I'm going to touch on that. My perspective. Go ahead.
What's going on in the two lakes? It's Norman and the Pullman one that are
William Patman.
So I'm not familiar with that lake at all, and I really can't think of
nobody in Texas is.
I really can't think of like Lake Norman, like topologically. I can't view that in my mind. But are these lakes more conducive to the launch points and the designated ramps and getting to places? Are they more conducive?
I don't know. I'm not gonna claim to have any insight.
I'm not sure either
as to why those two events were chosen. I do think that, and no one has told me this. This is I'm just speculation, right? I think that it was Hobie has 9 tournaments. I think we're gonna do the majority of them with motors, and then we're gonna have a couple that we're going to do no motors and see if there's a difference, see if we can, I'm just trying to think of it from a business perspective, right? And it's, I think the motors versus no motors has been super controversial, particularly for Hobie in the last couple of years. There's some people who are staunchly against it and some people who are, it's the future of the sport. This is the way it's going. Get on the bus or you're going to get left behind. And so I think it's their way of testing the waters. So, I hope they learned something from it. So
Nick commented,
an interesting comment.
Nick commented that it had to do with Queen City is the reason. I'm assuming Queen City doesn't allow motors and they partner with Queen City, kind of double dip. That might be true. Usually that happens, but that may apply. And I don't question Nick on this one. That doesn't apply to William Patman because all of the trails here in Texas have motors.
No, the Texas guys would put 4 motors on the back of their kayak.
They would put,
for sure. Well, I guess 2 motors is becoming more common,
This is an interesting point because I've this conversation for the last couple of years about Hobie allowing motors, there was this notion once you go motor, you can't go back. And I wonder, I'm interested to see what the reason is and like Nick said, that could apply, but to Queen City, but it doesn't apply to us here, for me and Wesley here in Texas, when we talk about William Patman. As far as your questions, if it's conducive to kayak, it's the funniest thing is like half of Texans fishing trails said like, what lake in Texas?
Oh, no.
We were like,
Listen,
Never
I
heard
am
of this
obsessed.
lake. And
Well,
apparently it's a very good lake, though.
hang on. Listen, it's easy for us to sit here and like, you know, question where these locations are. Like I said at the onset, without even knowing how this stuff would unfold. And you asked me about what I look for in a trail. Dude, I'm just grateful they exist.
Yeah.
You know, like dealing with commerce boards and the politics of small towns and who paying this and who's paying that. And man, that stuff just gets crazy. And it takes special people to deal with that. I mean, you know, I would never, I wouldn't touch that stuff with a 10-foot stick. I mean, that's just not me. So I really, you know, I guess what I'm saying is I'm not criticizing any of us. What I'm saying, it's just easy for us to sit here and be like, you know, right, Patman, or, you know, what this or this rule or that rule. And really, man, you know, unless you're really in the kitchen, you know, developing these recipes and when you sear the meat too much, you're like, oh, I should have had it at 350 instead of 375, metaphorically speaking. I mean, these are the things that we just don't have access to. And you know what? You know, sometimes us together collectively as a kayak group is just a bunch of whiny babies.
Yeah.
Really, we really are. And it's repulsive. And when I think about my own personal shortcomings, I'm like, dude, Dusty, the worst you got is like crying at the TOC because you were just devastated that you didn't win it, or you know, I'm swearing compulsively because a 5-pound bass that would have gave me second place without a doubt came flying off twice under a dock or something like that. Like, that's the worst. Like, that's the worst I'll do. I mean, I see some of the stuff that's public in the space with how people argue and what they say, their freaking grammar and their words and what they're doing in the space and attacking people and other companies. I mean, that is just absurd. And a small little branch of it, a small little part of it is like, you know, starting to do those. What are they doing with these rule changes and that rule changes? I mean, taking them into consideration and debating them and talking about them like we're doing, it's one thing.
Yeah.
But there's just too much inanity in the space, like just preposterous stuff that's embarrassing, unprofessional, and really at 4 or 5 a.m. at night when I'm kind of these thoughts are spinning through my head. Who knows what entities are looking at us? You know, who knows what big sponsor monies are looking at some of the shenanigans that go online and are making decisions that affect people like us three. I mean, I hate to sound, you know, existential like that or kind of ideal like that, but that stuff absolutely does go on. Nobody talks about it. Nobody wants to have conversations about it. When I post this stuff on my space, ignored, no comments. When I post about a life jacket, 180 comments. I'm letting you know right now. There's conversations, dialogue we're not having. We're not confronting as people because everybody's scared and everybody has egos. I said it.
Wow. Well, we went down the damn. Tell us how you really feel this.
Well,
you need to feel that cup up, buddy.
It's time for number 3. Don't get me started because I
could have brought the bottle in here.
All right, this is getting spicy.
We're pouring it, man. Listen. Let's get back on track. But really, that's kind of who I am. There's no shtick. I love talking. I love the truth. I'm not arrogant. I'm not like, this is how you need to feel. I want to talk. We don't talk. People are afraid to talk. It's like the race stuff in our country. There's just no dialogue on it because everybody's so scared about their, you know, it's like you can't even just be human. We can't even be human sometimes because, you know, really there's a lot of that stuff on social media with ego and perception and like, why, you know, like what am I, you know, like with how you post and sponsors and the business considerations behind it all. You know, there's a lot of stuff that we don't really ever unpack. And then because we're too busy fighting over the preposterous and inane stuff I'd mentioned earlier. You know, nothing really can stay on track. Nobody can really guide the dialogue the way that it needs to do. Like,
poor Jennifer. What did I log into?
Sorry.
This is how we set it back. Wesley, let's talk about.
I'm done.
Wow. Okay.
I'm
Ladies
done.
and gentlemen, this went.
I'm done. We're good.
All right. No, but seriously, one of the things that that I think. Okay, Wesley, say something. I'm trying to.
Listen, I don't even. I'm struggling.
It's all good.
Yeah. So, how do I follow that up? I have nothing. I got nothing.
We're just gonna end it right now. No, but by the way, I do want to say I kept saying William Patman. It's Wright Patman.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Patman. Oh,
what I wanted to go on. Oh, go ahead.
Listen. So a lot of, like you said earlier, Armando, you were like, yeah, they had Wright Patman, right Patman on the lake, and I'm from Texas. Armando, you live in Texas. You're from
No,
Texas.
I'm 3 hours away. We didn't know anybody that's like. I called like 5 anglers. Like, have you heard of Right Patman? Who the heck is this lake? Is this just like in El Paso? What's going on?
What if like 112 inches takes to win? Everybody's we'll put it on the map.
Yeah, I know, right?
We might ruin a new lake here.
But I kind of wonder if Hobie, they've got two tournaments in Texas, right? They've got Rayburn and Wright Patman. One's motors, one's no motors. So I think it's let's see what the attendance is, and
exactly
motors versus no motors really matters.
That's what I think the angle. And again, Dustin doesn't want to interject into the mind of AJ and Steve Field's decision. Listen, I'll do it just for fun. I like to speculate. I think they're kicking the tires. They're gonna see. Hold on. They're gonna see. We got 2 Texas lakes. Texas doesn't matter what lake it is. You put a national trail in Texas, you're going to get at least 125 anglers. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So they're going to compare and they're going to see, wait a minute, we want to know what they're trying to, my opinion, they're trying to find out why the attendance went down. And I can't stress this enough. Not that it sucked. It's not anything negative. It surprised everybody to see the attendance go down. It wasn't a huge number, but it was a noticeable number, right? So I think they're trying to say, my opinion, right? Okay, 2 Texas Lake, 1 motors, 1 no motors. Let's see which one does better. And let's see if there is a noticeable drop-off from one or the other, and then have this conversation behind closed doors between, Hobie Brass and say, okay, now we got the intel. Do we go back to no motors, or do we move forward with motors full-time, or are we going to do part-time?
Yeah.
And it's interesting. And I'm not criticizing. That's a smart way to go. That's a smart way to go.
Let's get a sample size. Let's see what's going on. I mean, and again, you're right. For me, it's pure conjecture and speculation. I have no idea. The less I know about that stuff, the better. Seriously.
Yeah.
I need to focus on what jerkbait suspends at what depth and stuff like that. Really, Let's get.
I'm just glad that I have an opportunity to fish 2 national trails in the same trail in Texas.
Crazy.
Thank you, Hobie.
Yes, and Bassmaster.
I know it stinks.
Bassmaster.
I kind of feel bad for, and I would understand if anybody from upstate New York or the Northeast throw hates at us, because we got 2 trails right here in Texas for both national trails. Yeah. They have to drive.
Yeah, I love this. The hard way. All I know about Texarkana is there's a prison. There's a prison in pretty much every city in the state of Texas, honey. There's 7 in the city I live in. More.
That's the other staple of Texas we don't talk about.
Driving through my state of Illinois is a prison. It's like once you get out of Chicago, which is great to get out of Chicago, but it's just 6 hours of land that has been ironed. Just nothing. It's just it's like a prison. I love when the hills of Kentucky and Tennessee start popping up and the mountains start popping up. That's when I like that terrain, man. Illinois sucks. When I get to Texarkana, I'm thinking, man, I'm by Lake Caddo. So my adrenaline and blood starts flowing.
I know, Wesley, you're probably not going to be involved in this one. Dusty, I think you might be, but I want to share, because this is another trail that's popping up. And I'm very intrigued on the format and Kayak Adventure Series. That is very interesting. First of all, shout out to Drew and what he's doing. What I like about this trail is I feel, and Wesley, Dustin, you can chime in on this as well. It seems like we haven't fished it, right? We don't know. It hasn't even come out the first trail yet. But from what I'm seeing, the social media and what Drew is, I think Drew captured something that it's not talked about enough. And he's putting the fun back in this tournament. My experience fishing it, I fish with Rolando Nandin, not fish with Rolando Nandin. I usually room with Rolando Nandin and some of the crew from Texas KBL. I've said this on the podcast. I'm not saying anything I wouldn't say in front of Rolando Nandin or have in the past. that is as business approach as you'll ever find an angler. Like he is like, we're gonna be completely by the rules, and if the rule says this is where I go, I'm gonna step 100 feet behind that just to make sure I don't even trip on those rules. And it's interesting, and it is a very professional approach, and I love it. But at the same time, it's more like, you do your thing, it's like, and I remember, Wesley, you love having fun. Remember Broken Bow? I think you had a party, which we didn't even get to because Rolando's like, no, we're fishing, we're here to go fish.
Wait, which one?
Broken Bow. I think we had.
Oh yeah, that was my birthday weekend. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Oh, you got to party a little bit.
Oh yeah.
So, when you look at give us your perspective, Wesley and Dustin, of, what is the fun in this national trails? I have fun just fishing, but when seeing the Kayak Adventure Series, it's gonna be like a very homey, where we bring your family, bring friends. It's gonna be about the experience. If you cut a check or not, that's not the attraction. When I look at national trails, I see the big attraction is the payouts.
Yeah.
And for some people, the opportunity to get sponsorship. For you guys, when you look at what Drew is doing, what catches your eye? And Dustin, I know Wesley, this is a little bit far away from us here in Texas.
Yeah.
But what would you consider doing these trails, and what would be the attraction for you guys?
Oh yeah. So listen, I actually watched part of their live stream that they did, I think like earlier this week, like yesterday or the day before, about Shoalipalooza, which is in Georgia.
Yeah.
And I didn't watch all of it, but I watched some of it. And,
it was really good.
And I haven't read the rules, right? But it seems like they're putting a lot of effort into, the awards venue and how they're going to feature the anglers and launch locations, and just, making it, like you said, like a really fun experience. And I'll tell you what it kind of reminds me of a little bit. Before my years before I did bass fishing, I used to run half marathons a lot. And so that kind of like, for me, that race culture, that running race culture is, you don't get money for winning those things. Not most of them, right? Not the stuff I did. You don't get money for that. You get a free t-shirt, a free beer, and a medal. And you are so excited.
Wait a minute, free beer, you said?
Yeah, like, the first and last bike race, I did one bike race, mountain bike race. I did it because I got a free taco and a free beer at the end.
There is no better reason to do it. Let's just add that.
1 miles on a bike for a taco, a beer, and a t-shirt.
What other reason would there be?
What other reason would there be? And to top it all off, and you can laugh at me, and I love it, it's fine, I was dead ass last.
Okay, I'm not laughing.
Very last person out of everyone. Even the people who did the 72-mile race finished before I finished 26 miles.
So that was training for your kayak fishing career, I guess.
Yes. I mean, listen, it was the best time ever. Me and my sister did it together. It was a lot of fun. The culture, like the way they talk about it, reminds me of that kind of like running bike racing culture, that it's, you are there and you're doing this because it's fun and you love it and you want to be with your friends and your family. And for the tournament part, if you cash a check, great. If you don't, guess what? You have had such an amazing time. And so, I would totally do one if it fits into my schedule. And I'll tell you, while you had it pulled up, I just looked because they have one on the Susquehanna in August.
Yes.
And listen, it fits between Susquehanna and Saginaw Bay. So I may make an appearance.
Oh, there you go.
Some of the locations, they look great. And Drew. I mean, if you were to envision anybody, if you were to envision your prototypical schedule maker, like who would you want making a schedule? Drew's a pretty good guy to imagine doing that because he has such
wealth of knowledge,
such a wealth of experience in different watersheds and understanding them. So from that perspective, it's great. So so schedule wise, location wise, I mean, it just sort of speaks for himself. There's some really great locations there. But I think Wesley touched on it too. She touched on friends and family.
Yeah.
And, I'll tell you what, it has been so I hate to sound so like dorky, but it's been so meaningful getting to travel with my wife. I mean, it is such a like it's I mean it's like a bond on top of a bond. I mean, she has become like my tournament partner. And how many people really we we referenced before, not to reference it for a third time, but there's just a handful of people that can really travel at their leisure and get out to these things, and there's even fewer that can involve their loved ones. Maybe whether they want to or not, I'm not sure, because sometimes fishing is an escape, and that's legitimate too. But the impact of bringing your children or your loved one, or if your companion, your partner, your wife, your spouse, or whatever. I mean, those are wonderful moments and opportunities to travel and explore and have an adventure, and that's literally in the title of his series. So I think what's even more is this is an opportunity to escape from the rigors of a tournament and the serious consideration.
That's what I meant. Yeah,
and to get to these places where you are on good spots, you can take the fishing seriously. There will be prizes, and then it's family centric. It's celebration centric. It's these places where you're in theaters and you're in these public places where there'll be media and celebration. So he's doing a great job of combining all of those things into one. So I wish him the best of luck. If I'm able to get to one, I would love to. And I think there's a really cool partner aspect, like a team aspect to his tournaments as well.
Yeah, no, it has some fun, quirky things, like if you,
aren't
the smallest limit too.
Yeah, I was going to say micro bags.
Yeah, micro bags.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I wondered, and I hope it comes to fruition, because I think this is much needed. Like I mentioned before, the attraction for people to do the 10, 12-hour drives that a lot of people do. It's not the vast majority of the anglers, but a lot of people do, is, the prices, the chance to fish a Bassmaster. That Bassmaster has this aura of like, you grew up watching Bassmasters.
Absolutely.
Everybody wants to run that red carpet and be in the final 10 on the championship, on the championship. And so it has the attraction. Hobie, obviously, the payouts are a lot, especially at the TOC. The payouts are incredible. KBF with the national trails, I know it's not the golden age of what KBF used to be, but where it was, I mean, the payouts were crazy. I mean, for the championship.
None of us are talking without KBF. We're not sitting here.
Exactly.
None of us are talking right here on this podcast without the efforts of KBF. So you definitely have to honor
it. Whatever feelings we have about KBF and how it's managed, and the face of KBF, one thing is for sure: we owe a lot to the foundation that KBF established.
Without a doubt, 100%.
It's kind of shame that it's the golden age has kind of appeared to have passed for whatever reason.
We'll see.
For whatever reason. Hopefully that will get rekindled at some point with whatever changes need to happen. But to touch on that and give homage, we're not here at this point of the growth of the sport without the foundation being led by KBF and the people involved. And obviously,
for sure,
but the lion's share of that credit goes to Chad Hoover, of course.
Definitely.
But so I'm wondering if the attraction of what Kayak Adventure Series, and from what I gather from you, Wesley, it is, if the attraction is the fun side of it. It's not necessarily the paycheck. It's not the walking, hosting a big blue trophy. It's the fun and the camaraderie of it. Is that going to be a big attraction enough to put the numbers that it's needed? And I don't have no idea when it comes to what Drew Gregory, his cutoff on what would he find successful as far as numbers, and what he find as like, this is not successful. And again, I don't know those numbers. Drew can only comment on that, but I'm hoping it is. And I think when I look at the trails, and we have it pulled up here for those that are watching on the live or watching the reruns on YouTube or Facebook, Michigan, Missouri, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, it's not the typical Tennessee and Texas trails that generally gather those big showouts. Michigan is not known for the bass fishing culture.
Pennsylvania, other than the Susquehanna, and the smallmouth bass, I think that speaks for itself. I think that is it. It's big. It's not maybe as big as Texas or Kansas or Tennessee or Alabama. Missouri, shoaly bass, and Wisconsin. I don't see the local population being that big, and I may be mistaken. So I think it's gonna need a lot of people willing to put those, I don't know, 5 to 10 hour drives in order for that.
I kind of think it's going to be the opposite.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not super familiar with a lot of the areas, but I think the way they positioned themselves as a trail is that, they're kind of appealing to, and this is just my opinion, I feel like they're appealing to that demographic that is, they may not necessarily want to be super competitive at the national level, right?
That's not for them. Yeah,
and so they're appealing to these grassroots folks that really want a national, or a experience that's different. The rules and the format is different. It's kind of got this fun aspect to it, but it's still competitive. And not only that, I think that they have a real opportunity here to appeal to like a completely different set of sponsors. The way they have positioned themselves,
not like non-endemics,
non-endemic sponsors, right? And so think about brewing companies, restaurants,
exactly.
They're making this almost like kind of like, and maybe I'm wrong, and Drew, forgive me, but it's kind of like festival culture a little bit.
Well, I'm glad you brought
Square.
That up. I didn't want to speak for Drew. I'm glad you brought that up.
And I'm not trying to. I haven't talked to any of them about
this. I agree totally, 100%.
This is just what I've gotten from their social media, what I've seen on live, even
it's
just
sort of plain
graphic design nut. So just like the feel and everything that they're giving, that's just kind of the impression that I get.
Mm-hmm.
And so local people are gonna flock to this. I mean, I think they're gonna really love it, and you're gonna get some people who travel and do those tournaments. And then I think the majority of them are going to be, people who are, probably less than 5 to 6 hours away.
For sure. And maybe a brand new demographic.
Yeah.
Overall, a brand new demographic. Yeah. That's just a godsend to bring that to the sport.
Absolutely.
Sure. And by the way, shout out to Dustin Hoyt. This is what I want. I know we have our panel with Dustin and Wesley, but you guys and girls that are watching the live show, please comment. I know I try to go. Instagram is live. I know Gary Morgan commented also on Instagram. I apologize. Instagram comments, I got to kind of leave the StreamYard page to go to Instagram to view the comments, and I keep forgetting.
What Instagram is it? Where do I go for that?
Oh, Bass Kayak and Beers. It's just, I think now we can stream live from Bass Kayak and Beers.
Is Garrett still predicting that he wins, right, Patman?
I don't know. I wouldn't. I mean, he's a hammer. But going back, Justin Hoy commenting. That's what I want. I want you guys that are watching live comment. If you give me your thoughts on the national trails, give me your thoughts. I want to know if you're willing to do the Kayak Adventure Series as well, and what do you like about it? I agree with Justin. I think it sounds a lot of fun. And just listening to Drew, it just sounds fun. The reason why I mentioned on the attendance is because Missouri, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Pennsylvania, outside of Susquehanna, the attendance for the national trails have not been what they hoped for. And you see them pretty much not going there anymore, or paying less attention to those areas. Like Georgia, Michigan. I know Michigan usually gets less than 100 anglers whenever Hobie BOS or Bass. I don't know if Bassmaster has ever gone there, but I know national trails tend to have less than 100 in attendance in Michigan, Wisconsin, and those areas.
It could be
so I'm hoping it works out. I'm interested. I like the fact that Drew is thinking outside the box. Yeah. And let me tell you something. If Drew is able to capture something special with putting the fun back in this, that may change the way Hobie BOS, KBF, and Bassmaster approach this. They may be able to maybe get pizza back in Hobie BOS. Who knows?
Yeah.
We may get some form of entertainment. I think I've heard Jeff Malott and Ryan Lambert say that, and I know it's the business side, right? They need to make their money as well. This is not. We're not gonna. A Hobie BOS is not just gonna lose money to entertain us, right? They have to at least come. In their case, this is more of a
the business considerations come first.
Yeah,
no matter what.
exactly.
No matter
exactly.
They come first for choose your adventure, and this is not a criticism. They
No,
come first for everybody. They come
it's everybody.
Nobody personal home and finances, man. This is what we have to consider, and they're real, and we should understand that.
And from that perspective, that's what that going back to it. Like, I wish those captains meetings would be more fun. Would be like, hey, we're gonna maybe local band. Live music, have something. Chris Morales, Duke Trent, make those captains meetings and those award shows as fun. And Wesley, you can chime in on this. Chris Morales is all about having fun on these trails.
Yeah.
No, you guys are absolutely right. And I could spend 10 hours talking about this, my personal experience and struggles with it. That chase to win, the drive to win, and having your travel and tournaments become very stressful and much more like work than like enjoyment. And any way to get that, to inject that back into a series is just a great thing, because that's ultimately what we need to be doing out there, man, is enjoying ourselves. Yeah. You're able to travel and see the country and do all these things with your life that are really good and right. So it's cool that way. When Armando, when you were talking about attendance numbers and what they might be, I hate to say it, but gosh, another thing is to consider is just how many of there is of us, and then how many series there are. I mean, imagine the participation if there was one national trail.
Yeah.
There was one dominant. That's the one. That's the one. I'm sorry. I mean, if I just have to be honest and let's talk, I feel, man, KBF could have been that. KBF. I think that Chad sort of had that in the palm of his hands, and it sort of could have been that way. But and again, it's conjecture and speculation. But one national trail could, have 300 participants, $300-400 entry fees, super prizes. I mean, like super legitimate stuff. So, dude, capitalism. I'm for that. I'm for innovation. I'm for people creating and trying and putting all that, and cream will rise to the top, and good things will stay, and good ideas will stay. I mean, that's a good thing. But we also have a lot of cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah. I think
we have a lot of cooks in the kitchen. So when everybody comes up with all their schedules and everybody's like, 175 becomes 110, or 150 becomes 80. And dude, this is not fault or blame. It's just what it is. It's just what it is. So there's that reality too. It's like, it's a great thing. All these things, we're grateful for it. It's wonderful. I'm so happy for these opportunities. There's also there's a lot of options. So it's a great time for this age in our space. But when we talk about these particular things, these particular questions, you're going to have to think about that,
That's a good point, what you mentioned, because there's this 2 years ago.
Burger King, McDonald's, and KFC are all in the same corner for a reason.
There was this mentality like, can the population of kayak anglers hold 3 national trails? And people thought 2 at the most.
Right.
One's got to go. And that may not be true. And I'm sharing the screen now. Native Bass Power Hour has managed to put something of a national trail, but they kind of capitalize on what MLF used to be.
Yeah, right.
They took away the AOY. And it's funny how this is a prime example of less is more.
Yes. Okay.
You take away the AOY could be sort of a handicap, in the sense that, well, if I'm competing for AOY, I kind of touched on it. Am I going to travel 12 hours for an AOY chance? So Native Bass Power Hour doesn't have an AOY, but yet they have trails all over the U.S. And interesting, they've managed to pull up more than 100 in attendance in places where Hobie BOS and Bassmaster have trouble.
Well, because
California
Portland.
One cast is $1,000.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's why.
It's
So
the
they're
format,
exactly
you know?
the format. They
Format.
found something in that
Totally.
format.
Yeah,
And
and
it,
then-
The format's outstanding.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I don't know that like the and I haven't fished any of the native ones, and I've really wanted to, but it just hasn't worked out for me. But it's not something that you chase because
exactly.
there's not an AOY like Armando just said.
Totally.
And so
Totally.
they're pulling
Less is
off
more.
of the local people, local anglers that they can get there, and then the people who like maybe
Who
they're a
will travel
national
for
angler
that.
like me or Dusty, and they're like, listen, driving 12 hours, I can do that like in my sleep. Like
Yeah.
that's no problem.
Yeah.
you
Well,
know?
hopefully not in your sleep, Wesley.
It feels like that sometimes.
What do you have, a Tesla truck now?
It feels like that sometimes.
I used to take like 2 days to make a 12-hour drive because I was like, oh my God, I don't want to, whatever. Listen, a 16 hours is about as much as I can do in one day. But I mean, that people will do it, and they'll pull in the numbers because the format's different. And Dusty's right. One cast, $1,000. I'm in.
Totally.
And a kayak if you get the right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you get the right. Andrew Hayes, we have an Andrew Hayes sighting, ladies and gentlemen. Tackle Talk podcast.
What's up, Andrew? Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks, man. One of my favorite podcasts out there. But yeah, he's right. And you touched on it. It's the appeal of it. So there is room for third national trail. It just can't be.
It
It can't be
different
repetitive.
format.
You have to put your own edge, and I think that's what Drew Gregory's is
Yeah, and
banking on right
the-
now as well.
The registration fee for the native ones is what, like 125?
125. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean, the registration fee is not as expensive as a
Super
Hobie or
ideal.
Bassmaster.
Yeah.
I'd
One
be
day.
curious to know what the Kayak Adventure Series registration fee is,
I think-
because
I think-
I mean, if it's
I'm not sure. I can't say that. I don't know.
if it's a
Let me see if I can
comparative
find
or
it.
less than what our current national trails are,
I think it's under $200.
Yeah, for sure. It's got to be
yeah,
under
I think
200
they'll
bucks.
pull a ton of people that just don't do the national stuff but want to do that Kayak Adventure Series because the format's different.
Yeah.
You're not going to hear an argument from me. I think that series has a lot of potential, just based on
150.
Yeah, just the different way that it's being
According
marketed.
to Dustin Hoya, 150, which
Yeah.
sounds right. Yeah.
150.
So, you didn't, Wesley. I thought you were gonna do Lake Fork last year. I didn't get to see you there.
Oh,
What happened?
Listen, I was planning on it. Alex and I went the weekend before to
I know
kind
you
of,
posted on it.
and fished a little bit, and the lake was still turning over.
Yeah, it
The
was
fishing
bad.
was terrible, and when I looked at the weather that week, I went, yeah, no, I'm not doing
Fair
that.
weather fisherman.
Listen,
You believe that, Dustin?
I'm really not.
I
Though.
can't believe it at all.
I
Yeah.
know. So listen, if you ever hear me talk about it, fair weather fishing is not tournament fishing, right? If
That's
you're going to be
true.
a tournament angler, you can't be a fair weather fisherman.
Well,
It was one of those that, and this is the downside of it, right? Because there's not an AOY tied to it, because it's
Yeah.
a one and done. There's not really a big deadline to register, and so it's a very easy one for me to go, maybe not. Now, if it were a national one, like, oh God, what was the one the weather was so bad? Toledo Bend last year.
Oh God, no.
18-mile-an-hour winds,
Ugh.
38 degrees when we launched. Sister was out there. I was wet and I was cold and I was not happy.
Yeah, no.
But
that
I
was
still
not
did
fun.
all right.
I love
So-
bad weather. I love bad weather. I love.
Not that bad weather. That was 30-mile-per-hour winds. That was.
With 30, I mean,
that was
30,
dangerous.
that gets bonkers. But I like windy conditions. I like bad weather. I like what it does psychologically to my competitors. I'm from the north, so like a 15-mile-per-hour wind is a calm spring day.
Listen.
I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah,
Chicago.
I like my hands. Like I can fish in 25-degree weather and they don't get cold as fast as other. Like I can like that's my jam. I'm confident I catch my biggest fish in the worst conditions in the spring. As soon as ice out happens, like I'll catch 8-pound bass here in Illinois, like 24-inch fish here in Illinois. Like, and I make it a point to try to go out on days where it's 20-mile-per-hour out of the west and cold. I just in the spring for sure. I like it. It's just like my jam, my juice. So when I see bad weather forecasted for the national tournaments, that's not like no thanks. I'll actually drive to that because I think like I'll have a little small advantage based on those things.
What
Yeah,
about
I
you,
mean,
Dustin? Go ahead.
I'll
I'm sorry.
fish it, but listen, I'm not a cold weather person at all. It's not my favorite thing in the whole world. But
Spoken like a true Texan.
tournament days are bad weather, I'm always like, yes, because
Yeah.
I am not going to not fish. I don't care how bad the weather is. I will be there.
Yeah.
And there will people that go home. So
Totally.
bye. Because I'm still fishing.
And weather and fishing might be actually really good on windy, cold wind.
Right.
Well, not necessarily cold, but windy, rainy days.
Oh yeah.
Man, those days can be.
They've already lost at the ramp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've already lost at the ramp. Oh, look at this. This is going to be terrible. And when in fact that's not the case at all.
Yeah. That tournament that me, Andrew, and Alex fished on Lake Nacogdoches, that we just like no practice, signed up, went the night before. That day of the tournament, it was like 13 to like 18 mile an hour wind gusts. And on that lake, it's a small lake. And the orientation of the lake, it was the Gulf of Nacogdoches. And within like 10 minutes of lines in, there were grown men packing their crap up going home. And I'm like, bye, Felicia. Like, I'm going to keep fishing. And listen, Alex stuck it out. My sister stuck it out. I was super proud of them because it was bad. It was really bad. And I mean, hey.
Did you fish that? When was it last year? I think it was South Carolina. I can't remember. Where they actually canceled day one.
That was one of the Hobies that I missed. That was
weather never happened.
I was there.
That, and tell me, because I've talked to people and they say that's the most fun they've ever had because now they couldn't pre-fish because they canceled day one. Weather never happened. So weather turned out to be great that day, but they couldn't use that as an excuse to go pre-fish. So there was like, booze and cornhole, I guess. I don't know what they did.
Everybody just
did you have fun?
Had a good time.
Dude, we went out. We found this awesome barbecue joint. Got a little too drunk for my liking because it's business on the thing. Yeah. I don't want to have any hangovers or anything like that. I'm eating right, drinking water, trying to get good sleep and stuff. But yeah, it and it's funny that I'm glad you brought that up because we still talk about it, how foreign it felt.
Yeah.
Because, again, my wife's with me often and, she experiences some of the less attractive parts of the tournament realities, 3:30 a.m., 4 a.m., and, here it is, we're sleeping until like 7:30 a.m., 8. It's like, you feel like you feel like it's 3 p.m. and there's just nothing to do. So it was weird. I didn't personally like it. I want the 2 days of competition. I wanted that. And I bombed on Sunday, and it was the worst tournament I've had in like maybe a couple of years. And it ultimately didn't factor into my AOI because, I got rid of it. But yeah, it was bad. I didn't like that. I didn't like that. I wanted the 2 days. I drove down there. Santi's my nemesis, though.
I was Santee Cooper, right? That
was Santee. Yeah, it was Santee Cooper. That's I can't. It's my nemesis. I got to figure that lake out a little better.
You got your namesake down over there. He's waiting for you in Florida. So looks like you're gonna have a good old time in Florida.
Dude, we're going back to that bar, Dust. We're going back to that bar, man. Dude, when you tell me they call it the Woods down there, and then everybody started calling it the Woods at that place I showed up, man, that's a wild place. Dustin, it was not the easiest for me to get to the Harris. I'm looking at his name, talking to him in the corner of the screen. What a dumbass. It wasn't. It's been too many old fashioned.
Hey, it's better than angry Dustin. So
it wasn't easy getting down this year. Like getting ready, like being able to register for it. Just today, did I get the green light to go really and get everything done. So what really made me want to go is the experience I've had at your house the last couple of seasons, man. Your hospitality has been excellent. I love that place, that Harris chain, and that whole area and vibe down there is awesome. So I can't wait to see you, buddy.
Wesley, before I let you go, I'm going to kind of wrap this up. I knew you guys are family, and I kept you here for an hour and 30 minutes. As much fun as there is, I know you have to get things to do. What trails nationally do you plan on hitting this year if everything works out in your,
Yeah, so I'm not going to make it to the Harris chain. That one's just a little bit too early in the year for me, just like work and everything. But I'll definitely do as many of the Bassmasters as I can make it to and as many of the Hobies. So like I said, I'm not Wasn't planning on chasing 2 national trails, but I think my things have changed. So I'll definitely do the Texas. Anything that's in Texas, I'll do. And then, my work schedule and things get a little bit easier during the summer. Even though I work for a university, I still work during the summer, but my schedule's a little bit more flexible. So you'll probably see me out a lot in May, June, July, and August. I'm really looking forward to the Susquehanna and Saginaw River and Saginaw Bay. So I'm planning on making a northern swing. And if everything works out, so we'll see.
Realistic goals. What do you want to achieve this year?
Ooh, listen,
we all want the TOC and the AOI, but
yeah.
Of course, that's always the goal. But other than that,
listen, I set 0 realistic goals for me this year. I set a whole bunch of outrageous, unrealistic goals. So
aim high.
Yeah, aim high. Some big social media goals. I got some really fun sponsor things cooking. So hopefully I can't talk about them right now, but if they knock on wood for me, everybody, that it comes through. But
Absolutely.
got some fun things planned, right? Social media, big tournament schedule. Gonna do some freelancing for some folks. So social media consulting and stuff like that. So I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Awesome. What about you, Dustin? What are your goals for the season?
Well, without a doubt, angler of the year to try to meet those requirements and try to do as best as I can in the individual events to, come as close as I can to that is absolutely the goal. It's very lofty. It's very difficult. But more getting back to what I said, I want to get back to the raw power of just like my childlike enthusiasm for fishing, just like that. It didn't matter if a camera was there, if a GoPro was attached. It didn't matter. Like if you caught a 4-pound bass, you'd feel it for a month. I needed to get kind of back to that because like the grind and chasing of the tournament thing is really neat and cool, but it's like a separate category. You actually might compromise, you might compromise your love and grind for fishing just in its natural state if you do that too much. So I kind of felt that coming on, and I didn't want to do that. So, and I also don't want to stop tournament fishing because that's a drug in of itself too for me. So I just want to spread it out. Probably 2 Bassmaster events. I'm going to try to make 3. I'm going to try to make at least 5 Hobie BOS events, and come what may, in between, try to do a lot more of that regional smallmouth targeting that I really love, and use those experiences to write blog style, and just to have a little more storytelling and impact in the social media in that respect, and some good content, of course.
Well, thank you guys for taking the time to be on the podcast. As always, I want to give you a chance to plug in your social media. Where can people follow you? Wesley, let's start with you. Where can people follow you? What can people expect from your social media and sponsorship? Do you? I know there's some you can't announce, but the ones that you have, you want to plug in as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can follow me on social media. Go follow my YouTube channel. That's a big goal for me this year. Working on that monetization, and I'm getting close. So go follow me on YouTube, Wesley Gray Fishing. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok at Wesley Gray Fishing also. And of course, thanks to all of my amazing sponsors who make fishing a lot easier on me. Fish USA is a big one. Dobbins Rods, the Rod Glove, X-Zone Lures. So a lot of great companies that I work with, and I'm really blessed. So yeah.
Dustin?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been blessed with some great support throughout the years. Of course, always a huge shout out to Catch Products. The big crew at Dakota Lithium keeps me powered in so many different ways. And I'm excited to announce actually this year I'm on what we're calling the Hobie tournament team. So we'll just kind of say that for now. We have some things in the works for the future, so you'll kind of see more and hear more about that. And everybody who supported me and helped me out. I got a long list of other people who support me, and I'm just grateful for them all. And it literally, it's not a cliche, without some of their help, it would be very hard to do this. So God bless them. I'm grateful.
Well, thank you so much, both of you, for
thank you, Armando,
coming on the podcast.
Always happy to be on the show.
I appreciate it. I hope to see both of you on the water at some point in the season.
Yep.
And get to share more stories. So for now, I'll let you guys go. For those that are watching, listening, remember you can follow us, Bass Kayak and Beers, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. If you listen to our MP3 formats, which you can listen on pretty much all major podcast streaming platforms. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, we do appreciate it if you can leave us your review, 5-star review. We'll be grateful. Will help us out tremendously with the growth of the podcast. Thank you so much for everyone that commented, that watched a live show. Anybody that's listening on MP3 formats later on, thank you so much for your support.
Thanks, Scott.
Have a great day. Please wear your PFDs and stay warm this summer. This summer, this winter, golly. All right.
Me.
Good night, everyone. Peace out.
Good night.